Welcome to the Restore Yourself podcast. I am your host, Timothy Waterman. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I am a teacher of metaphysics. I'm a personal breakthrough guide and a channel of universal and divine wisdom. And I'm pretty excited. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. This is the very first Restore Yourself podcast episode of 2023. It's pretty exciting, and I have to say that I cannot wait for you to hear today's episode. It is with a dear friend of mine, an interview with a dear friend of mine by the name of Sara Love Brown, and I'm going to give you a bit of her bio in just a moment here. But before we get to that, I want to deliver a message real quick. So here we are, the first day of the year, if you're listening to this right away, but whenever you're listening to this, the truth is that there are always unlimited possibilities and potentials in front of you. And every moment, every minute, every hour, every day, there are unlimited potentials and possibilities in front of you. So whenever you're listening to this, it is perfect, and I would love to put forth, what do you want to do with all the potential in your life? What do you really want to do with all the potential in your life? Again, whether this is New Year's Day or whether you're listening to this in the middle of 2023 or whenever you are listening to this way out in the future, what do you want to do with the unlimited potentials and possibilities in your life? Do you have that clarity? Are you asking yourself that question? Because that question invites you to slow down, so that you can get clear, so that you can determine what you feel is working in your life right now, what you don't feel like is working, where you want to go from here. You literally could go anywhere. There are so many ways to live this life. I've been out there in the world a little bit, and I've just seen so many different lifestyles, ways of living. And I've only seen a tiny fraction of the whole. I've seen enough to know that there are endless ways to live this life and be on this earth. So what do you want to do? How do you want to live? Who do you want to be? What feels exciting to you at this moment in your life, in this chapter? What feels exciting now? What felt exciting 6 months, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? It might no longer feel exciting. Are you just continuing on because it's what you've always done and you think you just have to be the same person day in and day out? Well, I'm here to offer the viewpoint that you don't, that you can change it up at any time, that you can feel good with what you've explored in your life thus far and change it up, make shifts, head in a new direction. So yeah, what do you want to create with this magnificent life experience that is such a beautiful gift, and there are endless ways you can live and create with this life. So what do you want to do? Who do you want to be? The possibilities are endless. So that's my invitation today. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am a personal breakthrough guide, teacher of metaphysics. So this is the stuff I love to talk about all day long, every day. And if you feel like you need some help, please feel free to reach out. Part of being a personal breakthrough guide is helping people create clarity in their lives, get back to the clarity of their heart, their intuition, so that they can really feel connected to what lights them up in life and not apologize for it. To get to a point where they can be honest with themselves, to be truly honest with themselves about what is exciting to them at this point in their life, what they really want to explore, what they really want to go out there and live and experience, and then not feel the need to apologize for it. That's one of the big things that I help people with. So if you feel like you could use a little assistance with that, please feel free to reach out. You can always find my website and my email in the show notes. So I wanted to offer that message on this first podcast of the year, this first podcast of 2023. So there we have that. And now I would love to talk about my dear friend, Sara Love Brown. Again, today's interview is featuring Sara, and I'm so excited. I had the best time recording this conversation with her. It was phenomenal. I was living my joy every moment of this conversation, and then I really enjoyed the process of going through and making the small edits to trim out things like extended space, extended airspace between questions and answers and things like that, and really enjoyed going back through as I was making some small edits. And now here we are with the the finished interview. And so let me tell you a little bit about Sara. Sara Love Brown grew up in Northern California and has followed her passions for health, wellness, and helping others. She is a registered nurse, an integrative healthcare practitioner, a certified Kambo practitioner. Some people say Kambo, so whether you say Kambo or Kambo, a certified Kambo practitioner, and an enthusiastic world traveler and adventurer. Her spiritual path is ever unfolding, as is her passion for alternative and world medicines and practices. Wow. I mean, you'll and there's more to come. You're going to get to feel the energy of Sara. You're going to get to hear about her passions, what's led her to where she is today, and why she shows up and makes the contributions to the world that she does today. Truly, I hope you can feel the energy. I'm so excited to have this conversation out in the world. I had things that I was already familiar with in terms of the metaphysical and spiritual path open up for me in new ways through this conversation. And so, yeah, I'm just so happy that we recorded it. I'm so happy that it gets to be out there in the world. So that is the next thing you're going to hear. Here we go. Cue the music. Let the interview begin. Yay, I am so excited to be speaking to, first and foremost, my dear friend Sara, who I just love her energy. I actually met her earlier this year in a very fantastic tropical setting, and after being around her for a few days, I just felt compelled to tell her that you just have this fun energy, this fun energy about you. And I remember she looked at me like, really? And I was just like, yes, that's why I had to tell you, because that's what I see, that's what I perceive. And so today I'm speaking to Sara Love Brown, who, again, first and foremost, is a dear friend. She's also a wellness seeker turned wellness coach. She's a Kambo practitioner. I cannot wait to get into that. Like, I'm so excited. You have no idea. And then also, she helps people discover and find out how they can live a life that's based on integrative well-being, considering the whole picture, all of it. And to me, I have a feeling that means, I just have a hunch that means, on all the spectrums of existence as well, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally, of course. Cannot forget that one. So glad to have you here. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here, Timothy. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I just love having these conversations. They are first and foremost fun. And then, yeah, I've had this vision that they can just serve people who are asking big questions, that are realizing that there is more to them, more to what they've ever understood about themselves. There's more to this life. a lot is happening on the invisible side of things, which we can't necessarily see, but we can feel. And so, yeah, I'm just so thankful that you said yes to coming on here and sharing a bit about your awakening experience. And then also, after we've kind of covered that a bit, just what you're doing with all of this knowledge, all of this experience, how you're serving the world, which is, I'm sure when we'll get to the combo, which again, if you don't know what combo is, don't worry, we'll get to that. Just know I'm excited to talk about it. So
Oh my gosh, I'm excited too, and that's been quite a journey to get to there. And I feel really excited to share and to talk about it. And I just want to add, I remember that when we met in March in Hawaii in a beautiful place with beautiful people. I remember you approaching me, saying that you sensed that deep sense of fun in me. And it was this kind of dual, like, really? And yeah, I feel that childlike wanting to play in a lot of ways. So that was cool.
yeah, well, I'm glad that's how it landed. That part of you was like, really? Another part was like, yeah, this is true. This is true. Because yeah, that's just what I sensed radiating out from you. So I'm glad you felt it to be true. So let's rewind a little bit because I know when I met you, you were far along this path of what I often call the awakening path, or like the path of consciousness, consciousness awakening within the human experience. And I've actually not heard this story myself. This is another fun thing about recording these conversations, because I meet a lot of people who are on a conscious path or a path of awakening. And in the moment when we meet, we have so much to talk about because it's like this language that we both understand, but we don't necessarily always get to the backstory. So I am excited to hear your backstory. And I'm just kind of curious, do you recall the moment when it just, I don't know, you were just like, huh, there's more going on to this life? Like, did you have a moment like that?
Wow, it's such a big question, and so many things in life set you up towards those moments, I feel. I'd say, as opposed to a particular moment, it was a period of time, and that was when I found my yoga practice. And I came to yoga after I was injured in kickboxing class. And in my mind, it was, oh, I'm going to do some active rest. I had a shoulder injury. I couldn't lift my arm. And I've just always been a very physical person, wanting exercise and to be aggressive with workout. And I could do hard things. And then I went to a yoga class in order to keep being active. And it was this kind of progressive, whoa, this dawning of something that was so much beyond physical. And I was really lucky to find yoga in a beautiful place with really incredible teachers that had this deep consciousness of wanting to teach and share and promote an opening. And it profoundly impacted me. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And actually, because of the last couple of years, they went to an online platform because I'm out of state now from where I started in Arizona. And so I've been able to reconnect with some of those teachers, which has been really special.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Yeah. I'm sure they hold a very special place in your life for for offering those perspectives. And I'm curious, what was it about yoga? Was it more so the teachings they were offering, or was it a bit of the actual practice, or maybe both? What was it that really started to, I guess, maybe expand your view on life or yourself, or, all of the above?
Uh, well, what I found is that yoga, in terms of the asana practice as a way to start, is very multidimensional in that you are guided posturally and in an alignment way. But within that space, it coaches an awareness of the way that you do things, the way that you perceive things, the way that you are thinking about how you are doing things. I found that to be so deep. And I would have at first, I would look around and see people doing these incredible postures and just think, wow, they're so cool. And I wanted to get there. But their teachings, the wisdom that they would share that is so ancient, from just hundreds of years before our time now, would sit and begin to permeate into me. And it was the first time I felt that I was called to being more conscious of how I arrived in a place, the way that I was talking to myself on the inside, because so often I know a lot of people can relate. So often it's like, oh, I want to do that really hard thing. And what they would call attention to is, where are you now, though? How are you viewing yourself as you go through the process of learning something? And I began to take more of a notice of an internal dialogue. And I think because of that, it coached the beginnings of starting to be a little bit kinder to myself. I was always pushing, pushing, pushing. And as you know from our work together, I still can have that. It runs deep when it's been coached in the way you grew up, of that wanting to work and push and get there. And it was the very beginning of being gentle to myself, which is a long process. That was such a relief. It was just like this cool water washing over me. And that gentleness has been radical for me.
Wow, I had no idea how profound your answer was going to be just right now. It's like I was like, yeah, there's got to be something about the yoga, and I was like, so that's why I asked that particular question, and holy cow, like that's profound right there, because yeah, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of us are conditioned to be so focused on where we want to be. Like I want to be there, I want to be there. And then, it can be so easy to start to be critical about where we are. Like it can go into like, what's wrong with me? Am I not doing it right? Why is it taking so long? And that right there is all of the critical self-talk that it sounds like that they really brought your awareness to. Like how are you relating to where it is you are right now? Are you making it a problem? Are you making it wrong? Or, those are options, but it kind of sounds like to me that they were inviting you to bring a sense of gratitude to where you were at the time. And like you said, the kindness and the gentleness, that right there, I feel like could, I know it changed your life. I feel like that could change a lot of people's lives because it's just so easy to be like, I want to be there, I want to be there, and then shame yourself for where you are. But what you just said is like, well, what if you could actually be really, kind and empathetic and gentle with where you are? Woo, that is wow. I hope you know how profound that is.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I could totally fangirl about this all day. I mean, it really was as impactful as it sounds, because I think most of us in our present day experience of the world are just doing and continuing to do our list of things and get this done and check things off the list. And it was the first time it was like, well, why and how, And it's kind of this taking ourselves by the hand in this other way that can make you pause for a moment. And it was a place to just be there for that period of time. And so it was definitely the beginning of an opening for me, and meant to happen. I mean, I was so clearly meant to have that injury, obviously. That injury was divinely gifted to me.
Yeah, that's also a really big perspective shift because yeah, looking at it from hindsight, I think the saying goes, hindsight is always 2020, not so much when you're looking out ahead of yourself because we can never really see what's ahead of ourselves. I actually even just saw a quote from Steve Jobs today where he was saying when he was still incarnated in his most recent form, he had said that you're only ever going to be able to see the dots and how they connected looking backward. So you just have to trust that the dots are going to land in a way that later on you'll be able to make sense of looking backwards. But just trust that wherever you're going, wherever you're headed, the dots are going to connect. And it's so perfect that I saw that because I feel it ties in so beautifully to what you're talking about right now. Because, yeah, like when you look back, you're like, oh, it was the injury that led me to a more restorative practice where I met these teachers who started to teach me about awareness and being conscious of my my inner world, my inner talk, the relationship I was having with myself at the time. And, I'll be straightforward. Yeah, I mean, in this human experience, there's just always another level of what we can experience in this life. It's like it's never ending. If you think about it, even someone, even someone that appears like in our perception that they're at the top of their game, there's a lot of those people are still striving, like there's more that I can create, there's more that I can experience. And so it's like it's never ending. And yeah, I mean, I notice myself sometimes going like, oh, like there's this, level of life where I've created certain things that I really desire to be at, and I can look at where I desire to be at, and then those questions sometimes still come in, like, am I doing it wrong? Why is it taking so long? And so, yeah, I love that you've brought this up because such a huge perspective shift. How am I relating to myself where I am right now? Ooh, man, mic drop.
Yeah, and that so much defines the way we move through our days. And with that, I really appreciate you sharing that quote from Steve Jobs because I feel that deeply because at the time an injury for me meant my mind went nuts. I was like, oh, restricted mobility, restricted ability, and I was losing it. And what I've started to see over time and as my path, and that I think was 2013, and what I've started to see, there really are not accidents in these things. And I've kind of started to feel myself through even, my life leading up till then, my life now, I felt kind of like this, like a piece of wood almost that is being carved and polished and sanded by the diversity of my experiences. And that without a lot of these challenges, I wouldn't have these things that have helped to shape me and to grow and develop me in ways that are becoming beautiful in a lot of ways. And so in the beginning, you don't want to have the chisel, you don't want to have the tough grit sandpaper. It's like, but then I see what it leads to. And you can't help but be thankful for what has been offered up to you.
Wow. Holy cow. Well, I just have to say, in the moment, anyone listening to this podcast knows that one of the things I describe myself as a channel, and I'm just sitting here, and there's like so much energy pouring through my body. As you are speaking and sharing, Sarah, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, there's like you're channeling, like you are like, I mean, it's your life experience, but like the wisdom that you're channeling from your life experience is just like, I just keep getting like tingles and chills all throughout my body. It's just like, holy cow, you were so meant to share this way on this day because I mean, this is really
Yeah.
I don't even think I can put into words, but Sarah, this stuff is incredible. Like that's just how I feel in this moment. Like this isn't we're only like 10 minutes in and I'm like, holy cow.
Well, thank you. It means a lot coming from you. And I think some of that can relate to that sense of play that you picked up on before because when I get passionate about something, I get this like radical passionate energy that is like, this is what I have found. And then it's nice to be able to open and to share.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Yeah, that right there could be a podcast episode in itself. And it's like, but wait, there's more. It didn't end there. So yeah, how would you describe things as they started to begin as they began I don't even know I'm so like just overwhelmed with energy right now. I'm like, I don't even know the right word, which one sounds more correct
We
right now,
find
but
them. We find the right words.
how did things begin to begin? That's the word I wanted. How did things begin to unfold from that place in your life?
Well, that was also that was challenging in some ways and just tremendously beautiful in other ways. I was actually married at the time. I had gotten married after I got my undergraduate degree, and then a month later we moved out of state to go to school. I was going to nursing school at University of Arizona. And I found yoga, as I mentioned, and what it felt like. I believe it makes me think there's this quote out of the Bhagavad Gita that is yoga is the journey of the self through the self to the self. And I had been with this person who's a great person, for since I was 18 turning 19. And I think I found yoga, maybe I'm having quick math. I mean, 27-ish years old, somewhere around there. And we had been together for a long time. The yoga practice became gradually more important to me, and we'd always had this plan to move back from Arizona to California after nursing school was completed. We ended up staying for several years, and then in the end, when we did move back to California, I'd had these whisperings of doubts going across my mind about my relationship. And it wasn't that this person was a bad person. It was just that I felt in my opening and my going along this path, he was not coming along that path. And everybody's path is different. It is not to say that because I was doing yoga, he needed to do yoga. It wasn't that way. I was just starting to notice more of these fundamental differences in our approach in the world and what we were looking for in the desires to grow and to expand. And so we moved back to California in 2014, and it was kind of the end of this. I'd always been in school, and then we were out of state, and then we were moving back to California, we were getting jobs, and so us being on the move all the time was taking up a lot of space and planning and things like that. And when we moved back to California, we both got jobs. It was really loud that we were on different paths. And I really appreciate him, and as that period of our time in our lives together. He will never be with somebody who practices yoga. He has said that. He blames yoga for a lot of us deciding to part ways. And I had told him at the time, yoga doesn't plant these ideas in you. Yoga reveals to you things that are already there. So I moved to Sacramento. We had moved together, and we're both still here, but it was really I was grateful to move to Sacramento because it actually has a very big yoga community. There are a lot of different studios, a lot of different people that practice, and that was very important to me. So I continued my practice. I gravitated towards teachers that would share a lot of in-depth wisdom and would coach things about your thought processes, going deep inside yourself, and so it's just very much become a cornerstone of my spiritual practices. And then one of the key things that happened to me that's part of the path for myself is I went to this yoga studio once that I never go to. And I was very early, which I don't usually happen to be that early. And I was sitting in the lounge area of this place. And I looked over across the room at this table. There was a weird shaped book on it. And I went and got this book, and it happened to be Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And I, of course, now I see, well, of course, I went to this yoga studio at this time and early in this place because that book I was meant to come across. And I spent some time with that book, my mind was blown. I went and I bought 4 copies, and I ended up giving them all away. So I had to buy more copies. But I just, so my discovery of Ram Dass I see as part of even a gift in finding my yoga practice. And from there, I went on to find and listen to and read everything I could from him. And it has been such medicine for my soul to go from there. And so yoga initiated this path. Finding incredibly wise and wonderful teachers has been instrumental in my path. And one of the things that Ram Dass has said is that he sees his life as this unfolding set of circumstances to awaken. And that resonates so deeply from the challenging experiences in my life, from my career. I'm a ICU nurse. I've worked in an ICU for almost 11 years now. And again, it's more of that gritty sandpaper that has been polishing my spirit and helping my growth and unfolding. And I am so grateful for all of these experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Ram Dass's legacy as well. I know for years he, from what I've seen, was like traveling the world giving talks, and then of course there were the books and even a couple of documentaries in his, the years before he left this incarnation. So, and yeah, I read both those books. One was Be Here Now, the other was Be Love Now. Two really big books that I also got a lot of value from as well. And so that's really cool. Yeah, I didn't know that he was one of your teachers along the way. So that's really cool because I to this day still love his work. And there's a lot of songs actually that will bring in cool songs that will bring in parts of his speeches. And I always get like this beautiful warm feeling when I hear them. I'm like, oh, Ram Dass.
Oh yeah, yeah, he has those collaborations. Yeah, it's beautiful. And he was so eloquent but lighthearted in his speaking. It just touched so many people. And he was so charismatic in how he would share his experience. And for him, that's what he did. He traveled the world speaking, and then he had a stroke in 1997 that impacted his speech significantly. And what more evidence of that spiritual path? It's like when these really hard times happen, you come face to face with all of these principles. And again, that had a tremendous impact, and his work continued from there also, but it was massive. And so it's one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, does everybody know about this? Which is a stage of it, right? Where you feel like you are compelled to share and tell everybody. It's a stage, right? But then another one of his lessons for me has been that the true work to do is to make your own self an ideal environment so that if the people around you decide they want to awaken, they can, as opposed to going and beating people over the head with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very important that that we allow everyone to have their own human experience. And yeah, I totally relate. As we're having all these profound shifts and our inner world is transforming and it's becoming much more enjoyable. At least that's the way it's been for me. It's like my inner world, the world of my thoughts, feelings, emotions continues to be more pleasant, more peaceful for much longer periods of time. It's like, whoa, yeah, I didn't know it could be this, I didn't know it could be this good so much of the time. So, of course, yeah, the enthusiasm comes in like, oh, I have to tell people about this. But then, yeah, as you said, it's like, not everybody, not everybody is necessarily as ready as we find ourselves to be. And so, yeah, I love that. It really is, and it aligns with so many of the channeled teachings that I study. At this time in my chapter, I study a lot of channeled teachings, and then of course, I channel things through as well. And yeah, it's consistently all about this life is about you mastering yourself, you mastering your inner world. And by your demonstration, just by you continuing to allow the inner transformation, people may just ask you, like, oh, you seem different. What's going on? And if they really want to know, they'll invite you to tell them. But yeah, if we're just running around like telling everybody, like, oh my gosh, I did this, you need to do this too. Yeah, that's where people can be like, I didn't ask you to tell me this.
Not quite as effective. And I want you to know, I feel that from you though, Timothy. I mean, after we met each other in March, I had the opportunity to work with you for a month. And that is kind of is how I was feeling things from you, in that it was this gentle invitation to see things differently, to maybe go about things a bit differently, as opposed to, listen, this is how it is. Because there are plenty of times, I mean, I'm obviously still on my path, and you can slip into those pushing and wanting to figure it all out and be where you want to go immediately. The tendency is there. We've had so many years of programming, and as we had worked together, it was like this, okay, how is this really, what am I doing really, and so I totally felt that from you also, and I'm so grateful for that time that we worked together, especially.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. That means a lot. Yeah, that time was equally as special for me. And yeah, it's like, when you are in a specific container where it's like, there's an agreement about what we're working on together. It's like, from my side of it, I never truly know what it means for the other person. So having you communicate that in this moment means a whole lot, and I'm really thankful to hear that that's how the experience was for you. That's for sure. Because yeah, I mean, my intention, the thing that I strive by, is just to help people to realize the wisdom, the answers are within them. They are there. It's just what I feel that I focus in on is that they're there. It's just that, can we really sense them? Can we, more importantly, feel them? Because a lot of this wisdom, this answer exists on a feeling level, just a knowing within us. And it doesn't tend to be super easy to connect with that wisdom when our mind is very loud and, like, just very busy. And so that's my intention, is really just to help people get underneath the level of their mind so that they can find that the answer they want is there in that quieter place, which tends to be, down towards the heart, down towards the gut, the solar plexus. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm glad that that was your experience.
Oh, absolutely. And that piece right there, getting down below the level of your mind, has been the single most impactful piece for so many shifts and so many different ways of being. That has been massive. And what I started to realize through a lot of work with, plant medicine, with teachers such as yourself and Ram Dass and all the teachers, is that really the mind has just assumed a bigger role than it was meant to have. There's just like a redistribution of management is what it really is. It's gotten a little bit big for its britches. Okay. And so to begin to see that is such a release. It's such a release and a relief, because it can be I kind of relate to it as like sinking below a lot of noise a little bit. It's doing what it does. And as we can sink below it, we can see what it does, but it's okay. It's not what it is. It is a tool, as other things are also a tool.
Yeah, no, it very much is a tool. And the way that I look at it more so, as I just reflect on my own human experiences, I just see the mind, because it talks and it can talk from all different kinds of angles. I just look at it as, the mind became so convinced that it was its own thing. It's like, oh, it's just me. I'm all that exists. doesn't really have a connection to the body, but it's also very limited in its understanding of life and the world and even of a human experience. Because when it's in my life, when I was head dominated, when I was in my head, I did feel disconnected. And to me, the mind also feels like it's separate. It feels like, oh, I'm just my own little thing, but I'm separate from everything. So I have to figure it out myself. I have to do it on my own. Holy cow, I don't have all the answers. What the heck am I doing?
And because I don't have all the answers, I need to plan and figure it out. It's
Yeah.
so true. It's so true. And I actually had some realization in Hawaii after some of our ceremonies that, the mind is a tool, the body is a tool. They are both tools for the caring for of my being, and to be called upon when needed, not to dominate everything, which is just, it's part of being in this world. It is reinforced as you said, and it's just kind of we get to zoom out a little and see through a variety of our experiences and exposures to different things. And thank god.
Yeah, yeah, I love the way that you put that just now. Yeah, they're both tools, and they both, if you ask me, are designed to work together to allow the spirit to have this experience in what we call form, a more solid, what appears to be a more solid form. It's like when you get down to the quantum level, it's like none of it is actually solid. And then when you get to the dimensional level, it's like it's only appearing to be solid because we're in a third dimensional state of consciousness. And as we continue to ascend, it'll begin to appear as lighter and lighter and less dense. I know that's kind of fast forwarding a bit, but yeah, all to come back to the point that, yeah, it's like the mind and the body, they allow spirit to have an experience here. Yeah, can we bring it all into balance is what I'm getting from you. Like, can we just get back to that state of balance is what I seem to be hearing based on what you just shared.
Yes, and along the lines of what you had said before, it's about that listening. And as we have our ways of being able to listen, then we can call upon, what spirit is saying we are needing in any given moment, which may involve use of the mind, use of the body, in order to, to actually listen. And it's been really beautiful. And the nice thing about it is it feels so good. It feels so good in comparison to following that mind spin. And what I had noticed is that a lot of people are kind of conversing with the mind, or like answering the mind, or engaging with it, and it's kind of leading them, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's, you don't necessarily have to do that, let it go, you know and believe me, I still work with it, but I can catch it. I catch myself in it a little bit more, and it's like, it gets trickier, but we get wiser to it, I think. So
Yeah, I mean, speaking in terms of evolution and where humanity is at, humanity and its level of consciousness varies anywhere you go. That's what's one of like the big mind expanding things is that like literally every human being, is in a different state of consciousness, and none of it's right or wrong. It's just, it just is where it is based on the journey that the human is having. And what's really cool is that just for those who are really, really learning how to listen to their spirit more and more, because there are all of these profound channelings that are popping up all over the globe. And it's still stuff that like someone like Eckhart Tolle has been speaking on for a long time, teachers like that, is that, yeah, the mind does tend to feel like it needs to have it figured out, and it feels like it needs to push, 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 go, 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 push through it, force it, make it happen. And that is one way, but it's like it seems like every day more and more human beings are realizing how exhausting that is, how
exhausting
tiring that
and
is.
limited
Yeah.
and limited.
Yeah. It doesn't see all the possibilities, and it doesn't see that the entire universe is here to support each and every one of us. And so like when we're in that mind, when we're in the mind, that state of like my mind is all there is, and so I have to only rely on my mind. It's like we don't allow the support, we don't allow the help in. Whereas when we begin to open up and be like, oh, like I have a body, I have a soul, I have a beingness within me. It's like, yeah, when we start to listen to that spirit, we can realize that actually life is meant to be a co-creative dance. And the whole thing, the whole big thing is here to assist us every day, all the time. And to me, based on my understanding of all of these profound channelings and metaphysical teachings, is that is actually where humanity is going, is to just allow us to come out of that isolated, I have to do it all myself mentality. I have to figure it out on my own, to how can I let life support me? How can I be open to the magic and the big dance where it just happens more effortlessly, which means that I don't have to burn myself out anymore.
That resonates so deeply, and that was something that came through when we have worked together, that I believe you had pointed out that when you are so much guided by that mind, it is such a limiting perspective, because the mind only knows what it's experienced, and what it's already known. And so when that's the lens, it's like tunnel vision. It's like this tunnel vision of possibility. And when you start to withdraw from that being the dominating way of experiencing things could, answers to things or ideas or paths towards things can come in any number of ways. And so you actually begin to open up the field in terms of what is possible, what may come to you. And it's so much more delightful and exciting, because it might not be something you recognize. And that is the most freeing. And that is one of the things I love so much about this type of work, is that I don't have to know, which means it could be anything or any way. And that is such a relief. Okay, I don't have to necessarily be like my type A hyper organized way to make something happen. That whole way of being represents strain to me. And so I love the openness of it. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that stood out to me as well, is that for so long, humanity has been convinced that they have to think their way through life. And as you mentioned, like thinking is based on past experience. The mind's going to refer to the past, how it's been done before, which is limited because there are infinite possibilities. And any particular mind, any one mind in general, only knows the experiences that it's had before. So that's its limited scope of reality and the possibilities. Whereas what I feel really strongly in alignment with is that we actually are designed to feel our way through life. Because, feeling doesn't rely on language the way that mind does. The mind language is actually a limitation in a sense too, because even in this conversation, there's been times where I've been like, I don't even have words. I know what I feel, but I can't even, I can't even put it into words. But yeah, we're meant to, I guess, a more expanded, more graceful way of moving through the world is to learn how to feel our way through the world, because on the feeling level, that's where our spirit, our intuitive intelligence is coming from. It's a feeling, this feels good, this feels not so good. This feels like a yes, this definitely feels like a no. I want to be here, I do not want to be over there. Like these are all feelings, and so the feeling, that intuitive sense is acting as a guide of all the possibilities, all the choices. It's an energy, it's a vibration. Like, ooh, something's telling me that if I'm going to travel, like this is where the excitement is. Someone makes a recommendation and you feel into it, like, ooh, definitely not that.
Mhm.
And so that's what I feel is opening up for those who feel a readiness. We're being invited to learn how to really to feel our way through life. How do you feel about that?
Oh, that resonates deeply. And what I have started to see is that when you are operating in that mind focused way, we're actually kind of covering over that ability to sense the feeling nature, which is our intuition, which you will feel as you start to have practices that quiet. And what I've started to see is that, oh my gosh, I have layered, productivity and things on top of that, which has quieted that in my life. And, in the same way, I really relate to what you said about, you know, having a hard time describing feelings. And I've had this before where I've thought, using words to describe feelings is similar in that tunneled vision, the way if the mind is directing everything, you have it's limits your ability to sense, to feel, to know. And so that just resonates so deeply. And one of the most magical things is cultivating that sense, because when we have been living in the way we have, it is a relearning how to listen and how to feel that, and also how to not necessarily need to explain that. You don't have to reason it out. And that's part of my nature that I've been able to witness, is that when I would feel something, I would want to investigate it. Well, why? What's making this? What's the reason? It's like, sometimes it just is. It's okay. It just is. And that really speaks to beginning to listen and then beginning to trust what you are hearing and sensing. And in that way, you can release. That's another form of releasing some of the chatter. Sometimes there is a knowing and there is a feeling. And it can be this, for me, it's been this very soft, sweet, relationship I have been building with my own self. And that's also one of the beautiful things about meeting people like you and the other people that were on that trip together, is people that also have that tingly kind of, yeah, we're getting it, we're starting to see, we're feeling into this. And again, it becomes this, like, it's vibrational, and sometimes that's not about words. It can't always be about words. And sometimes, and that's why I just feel like these tingly little sparks sometimes, because that makes the most sense in terms of what I feel. They don't always translate into words. So it's been so awesome.
Yeah, so glad to hear that. So glad that you're leaning in. I mean, it sounds like this direction of feeling more and not needing to be so attached to the thinking. It sounds like it's working for you, it's expanding for you, which I love to hear. And yeah, I mean, that's just what I keep hearing from, I have this hunger for metaphysics that is just there all the time. So I'm always I'm always learning, and that's actually one of the things I've heard about, whether you want to call them spirit guides or angels or ancestors, the help that we have on the invisible side of things, is that I learned this from a great spiritual teacher, and hopefully I'll remember her. Oh my gosh, Sonia Choquette. So I was like, am I even going to remember this name right now? Sonia Choquette, she specializes in teaching about relationships with guides and angels and even ancestors and light beings, all these things that probably in the next 20 years, a lot more of humanity will be like, oh my gosh, they are really there. But there's a lot of us who recognize right now that they are really there. And she talks about how, the guides and the angels, they don't tend to prefer to use language because it was a necessary part of human evolution. And it's limited. It has a certain extent to which it can serve. And so she talks about how, like, the guides and the angels, actually, they are acting through your intuition on the feeling level. They'll be like, here, let us give you this feeling like this, because if you actually pay attention to it, the feeling is very clear. But they also like to use, like, pictures. So in your imagination, you might just get a clear vision of something that just gives you an answer. And because, like, the pictures, the metaphors can speak so loudly and really tell us something, but they don't use words. It's like they will use words if they have to. If we're just not getting it, they'll be like, okay, let me use words.
Let me break this down for you.
But yeah, it's just that, there's higher vibrational ways of communicating, which that's what, to me, getting to the feeling level is about. Because the feeling is just like, this is what I always describe to people, anyone that I work with, is that my experience of intuition in the heart is just it's very clear, it's very straightforward. It'll just be like, this is what you need to know. And then it stops. Just like it's a yes, it's a no, it's a wait, it's a go this way. It's very straightforward, very simple, and then it stops. Whereas the mind can be like, what about this? What about that? What if I did it this way? Well, you could do it like this, or that option looks a little bit better than that one. It's like the mind is just all
Yeah.
over the place.
Let's conduct this multi-level analysis of a feeling. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Whereas the intuition, the heart is just like, it's this. And that's all I'm saying.
hmm And in that, I have felt strongly this honoring of myself. I had a session when I was traveling in Peru over the summer, and I had an acupuncture session with my partner, and it was very powerful. So much is stored in the body. It was so powerful. And as the session was completed, I felt this wave of emotion, and like I ended up I wept, and I felt myself in the beginning of it. Why am I crying? What is this word? And I spotted it. That's what happens. You just start to spot these things sooner, as the mind's kicking in to want to justify my crying. And what I was is I was like, no, I need to cry, and I'm gonna, like, it's just release. And what it was, I gave myself such a gift in that, because what I could reason myself out of, well, I don't have any reason to feel sad. No, my body was expressing. And that was an actually really beautiful experience, because I let myself have it, and it felt very loving.
Yeah, that's amazing. Honoring the energy that's wanting to move through. And yeah, there's so many times where like there's just something that's activated in our body that just wants to move through because that's what energy does. It moves through. And yeah, the mind could easily be like, where is this coming from? What does it mean? Whereas if we just like, oh, energy wants to move and we just honor it, it's like sometimes the energy moves in a matter of like, moments. So it's very, very, very beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. So I know we've covered the beginning of your journey. We've talked about some profound realizations along the way. What I'd love to segue into is where you are now, because I know now you're at a place where you've absorbed a lot, you've learned a lot, you've had a lot of ahas, a lot of expansion. And so now you're actually serving the world in a new way. You went from being a wellness seeker to a wellness coach and teaching people about an integrative way of living, which to me kind of lands as like considering the whole picture. Yeah, what's the why behind you stepping into this new iteration of your one new way you're contributing to the world? What would you say your why is behind all of it?
Mm. Well, I love this question. Well, I have, as I mentioned before, I have been an ICU nurse working in, very large hospitals for going on 11 years now. And as I have gone deeper into this path of, my own opening and awakening to things, once you start on this path, it is all part of your path. And what has become more and more important to me is authenticity. It becomes more and more challenging to be in environments that don't feel quite authentic to me. And, working in Western healthcare has been one of the most profound sources of spiritual work to me. In an environment where I'm surrounded by a lot of challenges. It's an incredible place where I have practiced my patience, my compassion, my serving, my seeing, my even my listening to spirit. In just walking into a patient's room, I can sense, something, a direction I'm kind of pulled. And over time, I have my perspective on the way that I have chosen a profession in the world, working as a nurse in a big hospital, has shifted a bit. And I don't want to my aim is not to demonize Western healthcare. My realization is that I find myself no longer in alignment with it in a way that I used to. In that I find that a lot of the approach that we use in a hospital is that we can fix everything. There is a medicine or a procedure for everything. And our culture as well, we have a really hard time facing, people approaching the end of their life. And a lot of what I experience is a band-aiding or a treating of symptoms of illness and disease. And over time, it has started to feel very challenging for me to be in that environment where we are strictly looking at the physical body and passing over in a lot of ways attention to people's spirits, attention on much deeper levels. And as my path has grown, I I felt so deeply this wanting to begin to work with people in a way that got underneath the symptoms of chronic disease. I want to help people because it helped people in a way that speaks to the way of being in your life, because so much contributes to people's being sick, people being admitted to a hospital. So much contributes to that. And a lot is stored in the body, physically, physiologically. And so my undergraduate degree before nursing school was in clinical nutrition. And so I've always been really drawn to, the wellness path. And it's such a small piece of the conversation in a hospital setting. And so these are the things that really speak to me because of the way of living. Everything can be nourishing to you and everything can be detrimental to you in a way. The foods you eat, the way you live your life, what you take in, even in terms of your activities and your way of being, everything contributes to your own vibration and where you're living, your outlook on the world. And so I just started to find that I wanted to care for people in a way that was deeper than medicating whatever symptom came up. I wanted to get underneath and find actual root causes of dysfunction for people, as opposed to, well, you're here, I can give you a pill for anything you're experiencing. And those things that, a lot of the things are manufactured. A lot of the things we just like to again band-aid over, and it doesn't resonate as deeply with me anymore. So in the pandemic, I actually, I worked at this one hospital for over 6 years, and I had a lot of different roles there, but I had a really challenging relationship with the manager where I worked. I felt very kind of suppressed and trampled on, and it was very painful for a long time. Again, now, of course, I see this as as part of my path, in that there's this one quote I've seen in a number of different places that it's from the universe that says, I had to make you uncomfortable, otherwise you would never have moved. And that hits hard for me because, I ended up leaving my full-time hospital job at the end of 2020. And part of it was I felt an abusive relationship from my manager. And now I can thank her for that, because if I hadn't been made to be so uncomfortable, I probably would have spent more time there. So I made the transition to working in a travel capacity, which means it's kind of like an independent contractor. I work contract style, and it affords me to take a lot of breaks. And so I would work for a couple of months, take a month off. And in that time, I have traveled to a lot of different places, and I explored my spiritual path in a lot of different settings. And the wellness seeking path has been something that I feel more and more called to. And then natural forms of caring and healing is something that has really just lit me up. And when you talk about vibration and intuition. I have felt more of a connection to these indigenous and natural based therapies and medicines than anything I have experienced in a hospital setting. And the purity and the vitality of it has struck me so deeply. And so I've been following that. I've been following that in my own meandering path and my own listening to where I feel called. And it has been incredibly beautiful to me. And that has led me towards becoming a integrative healthcare practitioner, which I studied with someone named Dr. Stephen Cabral. I took his course. He's a naturopathic physician who has experience with homeopathic, Ayurvedic principles, and really has a true passion for wellness and healing in a way that is getting underneath these imbalances, not medicating the imbalances. It's like, what is causing this? And then from there also I committed to taking the Kambo practitioner training. That's something that I first experienced Kambo in 2019 when I had finally opened myself up to plant medicine after much resistance. God bless me. And it's been incredible. And the people that I've met along the way has also raised my own vibration too. And I believe so strongly in these things. They so touch my heart. And so to be kind of creating this other way of being in the world that is also about health and wellness, that is not, inside a fluorescent building, has been incredibly beautiful to me. And also a journey, because there's a lot of safety in working in a hospital setting, that is something that you got to face when you're contemplating doing things a different way. But I have never been sorry for that.
Mm. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I loved listening to your why and where the energy, where the your intuition has led you. And I did look at your website the other day. And how do you pronounce your practice? Because I don't want to say it wrong.
Oh, sure. It's Moksha Natural Wellness.
Okay,
And
yeah.
that's funny. So it's mokshanaturalwellness.com, Moksha. And that's funny because I waffled a bit with the name because I was thinking, well, people aren't going to know what it is. But that is something that has resonated with me a long time. And what moksha means, it's a Hindu word actually that means liberation. And the what its real meaning is there's this process within that culture, and everybody has their own beliefs, but there is a cycle of birth, death, reincarnation, birth, death, and you go around and around learning your lessons in different varieties of circumstances. And moksha is when you finally exit out of that cycle. You finally are released from the continuous nature. And that I have felt that as being underneath so much of my processes is wanting to be free, not just from a hospital setting, but wanting to be free of that mind spin, wanting to be free of patterning and programming, wanting to be free of feeling like I have to do things in always a certain way. I want to be free. And so I kind of at first tried, other ideas, to not use moksha. And I was like, nah, that's what it is. It's liberation.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, like literally I didn't want to say it wrong, but yeah, I'm glad that you I'm glad that you chose that word because yeah, I'm familiar with the cycle that you referenced. But yeah, and I did not know that moksha was the term for breaking out of the cycle and the liberation, the freedom. So yeah, thank you for sharing the actual meaning. That's really powerful. I'm so glad that you settled on that and actually trusted your intuition, your intuitive sense. And then yeah, I know, as a part of what you do, it is the being a Kambo practitioner. And I actually know that I'm going to learn a few things on this because I know of it And I know a bit about the application process, but it's not been one of the applications from nature that I'm super familiar with, other than just knowing that it exists and a few things about it. So for anyone who's listening and they've been like, okay, they've been talking about this Kambo thing, just for some context, first and foremost, would you just share with us what Kambo actually is?
Oh, I would love to. So Kambo is the secretion from a tree frog in the Amazon jungle. And these tree frogs are in total abundance. And what happens is they secrete this substance when they're startled or something, as their own defense mechanism. And the substance is collected by the tribes down there. They actually send up, the young boys in the tribe. You should see it. It's great. They skirt up these trees and then they'll collect these frogs. They will harvest the substance and then let the frogs go. And it's an incredibly powerful medicine. The way I first learned about it is I was told, a lot of people in these cultures, they will receive 3 sessions per year as their primary care, as their health maintenance and restoration. And so going into it, it was a time in 2019 when I was being exposed to a lot of new things and in a lot of beautiful spiritual settings, although, it doesn't have to be a spiritual experience, but everything kind of becomes that when you are along this path and when you're trying some of these new things. So it's been incredible. I would love to share all about it.
Yeah, so yeah, we know where it comes from. We know it's a origination point. So why, when people learn about it, and let's say they feel like that vibrational, intuitive call towards experiencing it, why do you feel, I mean, why were you drawn to it? Why do you feel that people are drawn to it and what you've, and your experiences with it so far? Like, what do you feel like the draw about it is?
Well, one of the things that draws me to it is the purity of it. It is something that is directly from nature. And if you know about, most of things that are antibiotics or medications that we use in the hospital or in the home that people use, they come from nature. They come from elements of trees or plants that are then taken, studied, synthetically produced with, and then a lot of additives are added to this mixture, and then it's mass produced. And so Kambo really has drawn me because it's something that is a pure substance from nature. It's actually been studied in the US for over 40 years now. Actually, the original researcher won a Nobel Prize for it. And I have this quote from him on the website. It's that it is unmatched by any other amphibian for the amount of substances in it with such beneficial properties. And so being what it is now, it's being studied in the US currently. There are over 70 patents out for individual components of this. It's packed with bioactive and neuropeptides that perform a lot of different functions in the body. And so these laboratories are studying it, they've patented it, and they will synthetically produce it. And Kambo is the real and pure form. And by that, it still has this connection with nature. When you create and then artificially make these things, it kind of cuts off that connection. And I have really cultivated this deep reverence for what nature provides. I mean, it's incredibly intelligent, it's incredibly beautiful, it is incredibly wise. I feel so much for it. And so the place where I did my certification course has actually a really beautiful relationship with some of the tribes down in the Amazon. He's been down there, spent time with them, and it's a very, what's the word for it, there's a really beautiful give take supportive relationship there. And so it's quite an experience to go through it. And I think I've always been drawn to that wellness seeking path. I feel open to a lot of those experiences. I think there is, the history of these things being used is really beautiful. A lot of it is ceremonial. There's an incredible respect for the animals that they come from. And that feels very true and authentic to me. And so I first experienced it in 2019. I had experienced it several times since then. And in terms of someone, being a nurse in a hospital, I think the mass produced nature of a lot of what is in our culture as medicine versus the purity and the naturalness of a lot of things in other cultures, I see that I gravitate towards the latter. And it is a challenging experience to sit with. And in that way, it makes it very spiritual. Would you like me to tell you about the experience of it?
Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, like I know that on the physical level, what I'm aware of is that, it can definitely encompass like a physical detox, helping the body expel a lot of toxins on the physical level. So I know that, what typically is called purging in a ceremonial process definitely may occur with the application. And then I've also just heard about, the energetic level is that, as within the physical, also within the spiritual, it's like I've heard that people, even with the purging experience, which, what I've seen is that, someone might feel the need to vomit into a bucket type thing so their body can get rid of some stuff. But it's not just physical. What I've also heard is that on an energetic level, they also are experiencing a purge and a cleanse. And on the other side of the purge, if it's physical and spiritual, both emotional, all of the above, on the other side of the purge, I've just heard that there's like this kind of like euphoric, like, oh my gosh, I feel so much more light, so much more clear in my being, in my body. So that's kind of what I'm aware of. So yeah, feel free to expand, add anything to it, correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh no, yeah, totally. I mean, there are elements of what you're saying. It is definitely beyond physical. It is so powerful. And a purge may happen or may not happen, but so much is your working with your own self, as you go on the path where you try some of these medicines. A lot of it gives you this chance to see yourself. And I'm so grateful for that. I had a strong resistance towards plant medicines because I hated the idea of feeling any nausea, feeling upset stomach. And so I closed off towards these things. And I actually had one of my primary yoga teachers spoke to that, that a lot of people go through their lives just avoiding discomfort. It's kind of the human condition. We look for ease and we avoid discomfort. And that's, we kind of are tossed around, just kind of running from things that are hard. And a person that practices yoga, a person that has a strong spiritual path, as opposed to running away, you pull up a chair and you sit with it and you kind of examine it. You turn it over in your hand a little bit and see what's there. And so your own self is evoked from challenge. So the way that I have experienced Kambo, I mean, you make, and I'll go into some of what it's doing. You make little blister points in the skin just to remove the first layer of skin, and then you usually they come on sticks where the secretion has been spread on these sticks. You make these little points, you apply them to the blisters, and you will feel the effect of it within the first minute, definitely, but they only stay in place for about 20 minutes. And what I usually do when I'm sitting with somebody, I will speak to the process, I will speak to the process that you're going to feel. You're going to feel an elevated heart rate. You may start to feel a little pressure in your head, little swelling in your lips, maybe. And what's happening at this point is the peptides, it's jam packed with a ton of these properties that are going into your body, and some of them mimic certain ones that we already have in our body. But what we have, everything that happens within our body, all our processes, from digesting food, from carrying out certain functions, they're all chemical pathways, basically. And through time and living our lives, through maybe some of the patterns, a lot of things like the food that we eat, the sleep that we get, we start out in a very optimized wellness or vital way. And then over time, depending on a lot of our lifestyle, our diet, our influences on us, a lot of these pathways begin to get a little out of whack. You start to kind of have optimal functioning of these things. And what Kambo does is it goes into the body and it radically enhances a lot of the functions that our bodies carry out. And it acts on every different system. I hesitate to call it like a cleanse or just a detox because it is so much more than that. And because it's so powerful, your body, I swear, I have felt during these just like this powerful feeling coursing through me, like I'm going to shoot light beams out of my fingers or something. But what can happen is you begin to feel, they call it the Kambo flu. And so you will get some nausea as a component of it. And what I had first experienced was that, in being in the jungle in different parts of the world, they have you drink 2 liters of water before this experience. And then having that much water in your system before something this powerful is definitely going to induce a purge in you. But the real truth is that with this medicine, it is going through your whole body anyway. You are going, whether you purge or not. So actually, the way I was trained, you don't have as much water as a lot of people are experienced. I was trained that you drink about 3/4 of a liter of water. You give something to your stomach in case that is an urge that comes, but it is doing its work in your body whether or not you purge. The thing about the purge can be like a physical something to show for an experience, but it's not necessarily required. You're going to have the experience anyway. And so I will try to gently, I'm not try, I will speak to the pieces that are going to arise over the process. And in my training, we start with self-administering, and then we administer to several different people in different ways because I have so much respect for where I was trained. It was through tribal detox, and he really speaks to that. You need to experience anything that you are asking of other people. And, even us as practitioners, we want to learn this. We believe in this. It's beautiful. There's a little nerves with what you're about to go through. But the point is that we are here for it anyway. And so it's really beautiful to be able to watch yourself, because what happens in this experience, along with other experiences, is you'll feel this like resistance. You don't want to feel the nausea that you feel. And so you see that resistance kind of come to the surface in you. And what I have done with these processes is I have begun to change my relationship to resistance and begin to alter my perspective in terms of, as opposed to feeling this resistance and, complaining about it, can I begin to welcome this medicine into my body and allow it to do its beautiful work in me? And what has happened with that is I have come more into my own center with these things. And so, yeah, you will feel a little nausea as it's moving through your body, but it's something that lasts about 15 up to 20 minutes. I mean, and the way I've begun to look at that is should there be no price? Should there be no cost in a way of an incredible, beautiful healing experience? I can be with myself. I can be with myself in something that feels challenging for 15 to 20 minutes to know what this is doing for me. And I'm grateful for that opportunity to go through that, because again, so much of that is what guides people's day-to-day decision. You avoid the challenge or avoid the unknown, or you avoid something that doesn't quite feel like avoidance. Well, it's like the relationship with yourself, as opposed to avoiding and complaining. I'm learning to embrace myself and hold my own hand through something that is challenging. And so as the Kambo process goes, I know exactly what people are experiencing. You're going to feel a little nausea. You feel flushing, you feel warm. And what I'm there to do is just support you as you go through a hard experience. And so I will, I play music. I offer things like, some sage, Palo Santo, Agua Florida, rose water spray, anything to gently care for you as we breathe through something that is challenging. And there is an immense impact of knowing something's going to be challenging and being there for yourself anyway. And Kambo, I mean, there are legitimate research studies about each of the peptides that is involved in it, everything that it acts on. It works incredibly well for things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, addiction, autoimmune diseases. It helps with gastrointestinal disorders. It has actual help for people with chronic pain. It has anti-tumor growth components. Like there's so much information about how many different aspects of your system it works on. And then it is also something that it is this radical restoration towards equilibrium of your body. A lot of people, we move through our lives kind of going along day to day and kind of can forget that our natural state is a state of vitality and well-being and energy. And we can become inundated through a lot of different ways, even things like the quality of food. A lot of our food is sprayed with pesticides. There is a lot of things in our tap water that would blow your mind. A lot of these things find homes in your body, and Kambo is this way to clear and revitalize everything. So even if you are not someone that is, maybe living day to day with a chronic disease, it is a way to restore you to what is our natural state. And so I feel so in awe of the fact that I'm someone that can offer this to people now. And one of the greatest things about our training is that we were really instructed, we are not healers. Kambo is a healer, and we are helping to facilitate the process. And I feel in a way, I kind of can feel a little reluctant at wanting to convince people, because most people say, oh, I don't want to feel sick. I don't want to feel nauseous. And I'm like, okay. But the thing is that, most people don't want to feel that way. But can you be with that anyway? Like, can you allow yourself to go through a process and actually open as opposed to close? Once you know what it can do for you, once you know what it is doing for people, is that not worth it? Can you not rise, put your shoulders back and breathe and allow yourself to receive something so pure and beautiful? And so I really appreciate the work on the spirit. I've seen a lot of people also have big emotional releases. A lot of things arise in that, where, even like feeling the want to retreat or to cry. And the whole aim of all of these things is to be with those in a loving embrace of your own self, and to give yourself the gift of this beautiful healing experience. And so, if you can't tell, I believe so much in this. And it's really, really impacted me greatly. So I'm a big fan.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. I'm just
I do go off. I know, but I'm
no,
me.
it's good. I'm just delighting. That's just my me reacting in delight to like eating it all up, you could say. Yeah, just totally was eating it all up. And Yeah, first and foremost, just thank you for sharing all of that. I feel it's a very expansive explanation, even for me, for someone who's just seen people go through the experience from a bit of a distance. I've seen people go through a ceremony from, like 20, 30 feet away type thing. So you just see glimpses and you start to, the mind does what it does. It starts to form some ideas or assumptions. And I've heard about people going through the experience. So just, a collection of just some details here, some details there. So yeah, thank you for enlightening us with your own personal experience, but then also as someone who is a practitioner of this this natural substance from South America.
Well, and if I could add, there is a vulnerability to it in that, you allowing yourself to be cared for, allowing yourself to express in any other way, because purging is not just vomiting. Purging can also be like crying, and because when that feeling arises, honoring it and expressing it. And, even purging in our society or in our minds may mean one thing. In a lot of other cultures, it's very much seen as a cleansing of your stomach, of, things like that. And so it's not always what it may seem on the surface. And that's exciting too.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for bringing that context because yeah, I mean it's said that there's just yeah, I mean there can be whether you're talking about on a physical level or an emotional level, even spiritual in terms of energy, also mental, all four of them. Yeah, there can be a stuckness, there can be blockages, and that's what keeps, I mean, everything is energy, whether it's, mental, emotional, physical. I mean, spiritual is energy too. Energy just kind of manifests into these, mental forms, these emotional forms, these physical forms, and it's meant to flow. It's meant to keep moving. All energy is meant to move, and yeah, just through certain societal structures, we're taught to repress, we're taught to avoid, as you said, avoid emotions that don't necessarily feel comfortable in our body. And then, yeah, just our physical pathways can start to be, less than a bright and shining example of vitality, as you mentioned, just because of all the things we're exposed to in a modern society that maybe haven't been created in a way that adds to vitality. It kind of takes away from vitality. So yeah, just yeah, it's really cool to know that this one substance has so many levels that it's working on. And so that's really good for me to know. I'm sure whoever's listening, I'm sure they're probably having some, oh wow, that's really good to know moments as well. And one thing that really stood out based on everything you shared was that to me, yeah, that's what just stands out is that, our soul knows all that's possible for us in this life. It knows our true potential. It knows that we are love. We're here to love. We're here to receive love. We're here to experience love. We're here to share love. We're here to create. We're here to have adventures. There's this vast earth landscape that has a million different vistas that we can take in. And of course, it's always so much better in person. Like we're here to have like these expansive, amazing, connected, loving, fun, joyous lives. And I mean, that's like the highest potential. I always say that's the highest offer on the table. Like that is the highest offer. And actually, what I've been told many times from, the invisible forces, whether it be the guides or the angels, whoever it is that actually it doesn't even stop there. It could just keep getting better than anything we could ever imagine. And so yeah, to me, what I just from everything you've shared today, like the overall arc or theme that's sticking with me is that the soul knows what's possible for us, and it's taking us down certain pathways in life to open us back up. We've learned to close down, to shut down in a lot of ways, close off from our true nature, close off of what's possible for us in this life, close down from a lot of love and support, like you said, letting ourselves be vulnerable and receiving support. And so, yeah, what stands out to me is that like I'm just getting this like trust your soul. It's leading you down all these leading you through all these experiences in your life to open you back up so that you can experience that amazingly, amazingly, just vast potential that is available in this life. It's opening you up to lead you back to that because, I mean, come on. I mean, I know I'm just gonna, I know for a lot of us when it's tough, it's like we feel like there's no hope. But I also feel even beneath that hopelessness, there's still the truth that this life has the potential to be incredible. And I feel that even underneath the hopelessness, like there's still that inkling of like, but isn't this thing supposed to be amazing? Isn't that possible? And so I feel like, again, what's standing out to me is like, yeah, and your soul wants to lead you to more of that.
Right. If we could just listen, ultimately, it leads to a blissful state of being. And that's what it is. It's a state of being, not doing, not making things happen, but it leads to a blissful state of being and experiencing. And if we could, the practice of listening is the one that will be the most transformative.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely on board with that. Are we willing to listen? Are we willing to open up to listen to the simplicity? That's what always stands out too. I mean, I'm reminded of the simpleness from, the invisible helpers, like the angels and the guides, but I'm also reminded of the simplicity by watching children. They just enjoy the simplicity, it's like it's not complicated. And so, yeah, both in the physical and the non-physical, I'm just reminded of how simple life is actually designed to be. It's like, are we letting it be simple or are we convinced it needs to be complicated?
Yeah, because we can make it pretty rough. We can make it pretty hard. We could take a lot more time. We could torture ourselves for a lot longer and circumstances will meet you at that point. But it's like, okay, how much time do you want to take? How much do you want life to beat you over the head with this? They say the universe will serve you the same lesson over and over until you get it. And so, sometimes we need to take more time. And that's sometimes the way it's got to be.
Yeah, I mean that's the free will component is that if we if we're if we're hell bent on taking our time and resisting the lesson, we can do that. Doesn't mean we'll necessarily enjoy it, but we we can resist. We can make it more complicated. We can even suffer by our own choosing. Like we can choose suffering. It's just that it's becoming more apparent to me is that's just one choice. There is the choice of opening, there is the choice of letting go, there's the choice of surrendering to higher intelligence, there's the surrendering to show me what I don't even yet know to ask. Those are all choices too. So it's a cool time to be on earth where we're recognizing that there are those choices. Help me open, help me learn to ask what I don't even know yet to ask. There are those options too, which, like you said, lead to the ease, lead to the joy, because you have to be an open conduit. The ecstasy, the bliss, those are powerful energies, and they need an open vessel to move through. They're not gonna try and come in and move through like a crumpled up rock hard piece of paper, like that's just the example that's coming to my mind right now. They're not going to try to move into like something that's closed up, condensed, shriveled down, not open. It's like joy, bliss. They want to move through. Look at flowers. What's the nature of their journey? They just keep expanding. They keep opening up. And from that opening up, look at how much beauty, it's like because the flower just keeps opening. So wow, which kind of brings us back to yoga. How cool is that?
So cool. It all does circle back in that way, at least for me, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for again just being here and oh my gosh, I've been like sitting here just like in a state of awe and revelation just because hearing the way you describe so many of these life lessons, like in your own words, through the lens of your own experience, just adds a lot of depth to things that I'm aware of, things I've heard of. But it's just like, hearing you talk about them is expanding things for me. So I hope you know that, because that's literally, I've been going like, whoa, this is expanding things in new ways for me, which is like, oh, I'm loving this. And just, I just want to give the opportunity. Any last thing you'd want to say to someone wherever they are on a path where they're just realizing there's more to them, they're realizing there's more to life, and they're asking big questions, and maybe they are starting to open up and into the mystery. What would you say to someone who's just like, yeah, I think maybe there's more for me to open up to?
Well, I would say I feel you. Know that where you are is where you're supposed to be. Everything, as Ramdas would say, is all steps on the path. So even the beginning of these wonderings or these little questions or these little noticings, that is in such an integral part of the process. And what you will start to find is that those little questions, those little moments where you feel that, you're meant to have that and just keep following it, because you will start to pay attention to that more. You'll notice that more, and it's leading you somewhere. And the thing about it is you can't really skip that part. That's part of it. And as you continue on, you will build, and you are expanding at this moment if that's what you're experiencing. So the biggest piece is to learn to embrace yourself in that time. We always want to get to where we're going, but that's what we're doing. We are getting to where we're going in just the day to day and having these little things. So I really just want to encourage and send a lot of love, because as you open, it's going to be big and it's going to be expansive, and sometimes it's going to be little and regular and seem small, but it's all pieces. So learning to lovingly embrace yourself in each element is one of the biggest things that's going to support you.
Wow. Ooh, what a beautiful bow to put on all of it.
I
uh
like those.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, one last thing I'll say is that I just get glimpses into people and I perceive things, and at times I get like visions, and I don't know. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I feel like you have a lot of potential just to speak and to share. So I don't know if it's books, I don't know if it's speeches on stages. I don't know what it is, but all I know is that, like, I mean, you you in my perception are a teacher, and the way it comes through you is profound. So I see your energy spreading out into the world. I see you just reaching a lot of people through your voice, through your shares, through what you've learned along the way. And the one thing I just want to emphasize is I hope you, like, literally, I am just sitting here like truly in awe. I'm like, where have you been? Because you have a lot to contribute to the world. I know we met earlier this year and we've been in touch since then, but I'm like, oh yeah, like this earth called you in because you're here to teach. Again, I don't know exactly what it looks like. That'll be more about your joy and what lights you up, but I definitely feel that you're here to teach. So thank you for gracing us with your teachings on this podcast today.
I really appreciate your insight into that. It feels really nice to hear. And I think it is one of my gifts that when I feel passionately about something, I want to express, I want to share, I want to encourage. And so it's really exciting for me to hear that. And I hope, and right now I'm happy to be doing that with you, and we'll see where things go.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm excited to, yeah, get to witness where it all goes. So Yeah, thank you so much again for taking the time. This has been wonderful. Of the many things I know, I mean, obviously, I'll be listening to this as I go through just just to make any edits that I need to, which, are just, simple things like sometimes just cleaning up a little bit of silent air, things like that. But I know as I listen, I know things will continue to expand for me. And yeah, I'm excited to get this out there so other people can listen. And yeah, I was about to say there's a lot of nuggets that have stood out for me today. The one that I know is like the overarching one is can you stay can you stay open even when it feels tempting to close? Like, can you stay open because your soul wants to get you open so you can experience all the lovely things that this life has in store. So thank you for that among all the others.
Thank you. It's so true, such a powerful knowing. And as you listen back, if there's any insights that come to you, for me, I am incredibly open to that as always. I know the magic that you have and that you share also. And so I appreciate the time, even just chatting with you about it. And if you have any other questions for me, or if anybody would like to know more, again, it's mokshanaturalwellness.com, MOKSHA naturalwellness.com. And the journey is just beginning. And I am super excited about where it may take us, because it's certainly taken me in incredible places before. And so the mind boggles at what is possible.
Yay. Yeah. Yeah. I'm also very excited, especially after this lovely conversation today. And thanks for saying the website. Again, I was just about to ask you that. So it's like you picked up the vibrational request and you just said it on your own. So thank you for that. And yeah, it'll also be in the show notes for this episode. So if you're listening, you can easily go into the show notes and find her website listed there. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah. And yeah, I'm excited. You're on Instagram too, right?
I am. I'm on Instagram at Moksha Natural Wellness, but then for my own self, I'm at Sara Love BRWN. So you can find me on either of those. And thank you so much to you, my friend. I really appreciate you and all that you share in the world, all the work that you do. It's incredible. You have such magnetism towards you. I mean, we all feel it around you. So thank you for all that you do and all that you are.
Mm. Well, thank you. I received that. That's really, really helpful and meaningful to know. So I very much received that. And yeah, I remember seeing you on Instagram. So I was like, oh yeah, if they want to kind of keep up to date, through like the social way of getting updates, I was like, I feel like you're on there. So I just wanted to give you a chance to speak to that too. So I'll be sure to put those in the show notes as well. So yeah, thanks again for everything. And as you said, the the journey continues to expand, to unfold from here.
Yes. Much love, everybody, in any and every place that you are.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Thanks everyone for listening. And yeah, I'll see you on the next episode. Much love and blessings always.